Like, who was the first guy who did it? He's like, dude, kiss a tip. He's like, why? It's going to be a new thing. Listen, we're all going to do it. Just do it.
Remember when we first met John McClane? Argyle picked him up from the plane and took him down the Nakatomi Tower at the Christmas party. And the terrorists were overzealous, but it was sweet when they killed Ellis. And with a little help from Alan, John McClane kicked ass.
Welcome back to Shat the Movies, the podcast where we answer the question, were the movies we loved when we were growing up really that good? You ever caught yourself thinking, why don't they make movies like they used to? Can you still remember spending your Friday night searching for the perfect movie rental at Blockbuster Video? Do you know what Blockbuster Video is? If you answered yes, then this is the podcast for you. I am one of your hosts, Gene Lyons, and alongside me is my co-host, Big D, Dick Ebert.
Good evening.
And each week we take a look back in time and decide if our favorite films still hold up. The movies we cover are chosen by you, the listeners, who generously commission the films you love. If you like to see all the movies we have covered, will cover, or want to choose one for yourself, please visit shatpod.com and have a look. At the end of each podcast, we'll provide you, the audience, with a number of wipes each movie would take to get off your respective butts. Thank you so much for listening. If you have not already, hit that subscribe button and share with a friend. It's how we help the podcast grow. Additionally, subscribe to our sister podcast, Shat on TV. Review TV series such as Westworld, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, True Detective, Lovecraft Country, and Watchmen. Find all our information and past episodes at shatpod.com/TV. And finally, if you would like to hang out with us live, follow and subscribe to our Twitch channel, shatpod.com/Twitch, and our YouTube channel, where we play video games, host watch parties, and edit this podcast live. All that being said, Big D, what movie are we reviewing today?
So, Gene, early on in the podcast, Roger had told me, don't do voices. He said, we don't do voices. We don't do morning radio. And I don't care. I'm going to do voices, and I'm going to fucking do it. So, hear ye, gather round, noble Shat listeners, for this most legendary review, commissioned by brothers Chris, Mike, and Ollie, in honor of Robert's 60th year upon the mortal plane. This is the tale Excalibur, a film of knights, quests, a young Helen Mirren, and yes, awkward buttocks, thrusting that could fell upon the bravest warrior, but yet glorious in battle, a soundtrack fit for the gods, and a plot that sometimes wanders like a drunken squire. Now, Gene, let's unsheath our mics and see if this legendary tale still shines or should be cast back into the lake. And this was commissioned again by the kind brothers Chris, Mike, and Ollie for their father Robert's 60th. It is the one and only legendary, long overdue 1981 fantasy quest action film Excalibur.
Big D, I was watching Superman. Toward the end, there's a scene where they're showing footage of the Kents raising Clark Kent. And it's just parent porn. Mm-hmm. And I started to get a little choked up. And I was like, oh, man, I'm on the verge of parenthood. And I understand why Big D saw Father the Bride a little bit differently.
Fuck yes.
I'm getting there. So when I saw this commission from Chris, Mike, and Ollie in honor of their father, I thought, wow, to raise 3 boys and have them on your 60th say, we love our dad. We want to do Excalibur for him on Shat the Movies podcast. That just touched me in a very special way.
You know, I don't know much about these fine men or their father, but I can say that they must have been raised the right way with values. They honor their father, great taste in films, great taste in podcasts. They seem like quality human beings, and I think that's a fair statement to make.
And this fine trio wrote in and said, hey, Shat Crew, this film was famous in our household growing up. It's one of my dad's favorite movies, and I'm pretty sure he can quote the whole thing. A young Helen Mirren is a particular highlight, but for me, I'd lose half a wipe for the awkward buttock thrusting in some sex scenes. The final battle scene, though, is up there with any of the best war films. It's been a few years since we've watched this film, but if we were to go based off of memories, I'd be giving this film a straight down the middle 2 wipes. It has some amazing scenes and some great acting, but can sometimes drag. That being said, if you were to give a Shat score from the soundtrack alone, it's a solid 1 wipe. Looking forward to see what you guys make of it. Chris, Mike, and Ollie. Big D, the week leading up to this commission was fraught with peril.
Yes, it was.
First, I came down with strep throat, which I'm still recovering from. My sister, who is also my doctor, pointed out that if I didn't get it treated by antibiotics, this would get into my blood. So I didn't realize how sick I actually was. It was like a real thing. But thankfully, she got me on the good stuff. But lots happened this week. Our friend from Pure Country, George Strait, is being honored with a Kennedy Center Award coming this December. So congratulations to George Strait. But also, Taylor Swift was on Travis Kelce's podcast. And I got a lot of feelings about this. I have nothing against Travis Kelce. I have nothing against Taylor Swift. I do have something against podcasts becoming the realm of the celebrities. So I wanted to take a moment, Chris, Mike, Ollie, everybody else out there, to say thank you so much for listening to little guys like us and doing it at a time when we're being flooded out. All the money and all the attention is going to these big names, right? It used to be that there were just nerds who made podcasts about things that they were very interested in. And maybe you'd make it big, right? Now it's the other way around. If you're big, you get a podcast to further sell your stuff, further keep your attention, whatever. And so the fact that you guys, you got only so many hours in the day, but the fact that you listen to us, it really, really makes a difference. When a podcast network signs on somebody like a Travis Kelce, right? And they need the money to do that. And when they do that, there are smaller guys that were on that network that get pushed out by the hundreds. Support your little podcasts. It's okay to listen to the big ones, but just don't forget about the little guys. It really makes a difference. And not just us. I'm talking about all the little podcasts that you listen to. Listen, support, keep that independent podcasting going. I'll get off my soapbox now.
When you think back, because we've been in this for now, it's actually 9 years. Today, it's today, August 17th.
Wow.
Today is the 9th anniversary of Shat the Movies' first episode release, which was big. And back then, before all of these tools and all of these influencer kits could be purchased at like Walmart, like with your ring light and your mic and your mixer and all this shit, it was a small group of independent, creative people who all had their own individual little specific niche of what they were interested in. So you had to learn to edit. You had to learn to do social media. You had to learn to research. You had to find the tools. It was a creative, exciting moment where all the small little groups of podcasters, we supported each other, helped each other. Now, when you get these big Travis Kelce, whatever, it is cookie cutter. You already have an editor. You already have a producer. You already have the facility. You come in, they tell you what to record, what to say. They edit it. They pump it out. They don't focus necessarily on the quality of the editing to get it polished. It's just flood the zone with content so that they do listeners to spend their time and their money to support us when we're like the little mom and pop. You and I editing, recording, doing all of it without help from a large group of staff behind. It's nice. So do that. I agree with Gene. Support smaller podcasts, small creators, Etsy, small stores, brick and mortar, all that. And one final thing, Gene, as this is a birthday commission, I do want to say from the bottom of our hearts, we want to say happy 60th to Robert. I'm not quite there, but we're getting there. And I hope you have a great year. And I was worried coming into this recording. Like you said, Gene, you were like Arthur. You were on the throne. The land had been poisoned. It was dark. It was damp. It was sad. You went out there and all of the villagers were like, "You've lied to us." I felt like we were vexed, Gene. We were cursed. So I hope that Robert has a prosperous year, much like a healthy Arthur.
And happy 52nd to you too, Big D.
Oh, thank you.
Well, Chris, Mike, Ollie, Robert, all I knew about Excalibur before watching it was that it illustrated the Arthurian legends, which I was mildly familiar with, and that Helen Mirren gets naked. And I got to say, Big D, you kind of oversold the nudity here. I was waiting and waiting and waiting. Excalibur did have some great boobs. They were not Helen Mirren's boobs, but there were some great boobs. She was partially nude for like 2 seconds. I was confused if maybe I got like a bad copy of it, like if there was a different edit. Is there a full-on, like, eyes-on shot of her boobs?
I don't believe so.
We got like some side boob through some like mail.
Yeah, it is. It's never a clear view. It is shielded or protected breasts.
Yeah.
So, Gene, I have to apologize. Yes, I led you down a path to think this was going to be a hot moment of sexual awakening, that you might rival some of your earlier films in your silkies and rubbing up against your sleeping bag. As a kid, I would have sworn there was going to be full frontal. There was going to be sex. There's more nudity that is like right in your face in Return of the Living Dead. When that one girl was dancing on top of the stones, full frontal nudity. Here it's nothing. It's subtle. You see more of Lancelot's ass than you do of seeing any form of female nudity. But as a kid, we talked about this. We waited until it was on HBO at night or Cinemax or anywhere that we could watch it. Now I realize it's like 30 seconds here and there. Was I really sitting through 2 hours and 20 minutes of medieval like sword fights in order to get to that one moment of lens flare and hot buttocks?
I mean, if I were your therapist, I'd set you down on the couch and I would get my little clipboard out and I would say, so, Mr. Ebert, you recall a sexual awakening with the film Excalibur, much nudity and anatomical exposure. But going back and watching the film, what you noticed most was the egregious shots of men's butts. So what do you think that means? What does that say to you?
In the first scene where we get the rape by deception, the magical seduction, I found myself enjoying that people were watching and that like the king was kind of being cucked. So maybe there was some form of like a voyeuristic aspect of it that did lead me to some of my future endeavors that might be deeply seated and rooted in this scene, in this film.
Well, Excalibur is a 1981 epic dark medieval fantasy co-written and produced by John Boorman that retells the legend of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. It stars Nigel Terry as Arthur, Nicol Williamson as Merlin, Nicholas Clay as Lancelot, Helen Mirren as Morgana, Liam Neeson as Gawain, Gabriel Byrne as Uther, and Patrick Stewart as Leodegrance. Boorman's Excalibur began development as an unproduced adaptation of The Lord of the Rings. The film was shot entirely on location in Ireland and at Ardmore Studios, employing Irish actors and crew. It has been acknowledged for its importance to the Irish filmmaking industry and for helping launch the film and acting careers of a number of Irish and British actors. Reviewers praised Excalibur's visual style. It won the award for Best Artistic Contribution at the 1981 Cannes Film Festival and received an Oscar nomination for Best Cinematography and a BAFTA nomination for Best Costume Design. It grossed $35 million in the United States and Canada on a budget of $11 million. Let's hit the trailer.
A wizard's ancient spell.
Into the eyes of the dragon and the despair.
And the lust of a lord.
I must have her. One night with her.
Give birth to an empire.
Behold, the sword of power, Excalibur.
The future has taken root in the present. It is done.
One man, one king.
Orion Pictures presents John Boorman's Excalibur.
Knights of the Round Table, we shall always come together in a circle to hear and tell of deeds good and brave. And I will marry.
Don't you know me, Merlin? Because I'm a creature like you.
Their magic is Merlin.
Are you just a dream to some?
A nightmare to others.
Their king is Arthur.
You're my husband.
I must be king first.
Their power is Excalibur.
I swear eternal faith to Arthur, king. Sir Lancelot, you will be my champion.
Witcher star, greatest quality of knighthood.
True.
Where hides evil then?
Where you never expected.
I protest my innocence.
Were I not king, I would make you pay with your life.
A world of wizards, kings, warriors, queens, swords, sorcery, and desire. Forged of splendor and magic, where future meets past, flesh meets steel, and the only fear is the pain of love. Excalibur, sword of power, sword of kings.
In the Dark Ages, the sorcerer Merlin retrieves the magical sword Excalibur from the Lady of the Lake for Uther Pendragon, who is declared king. In exchange for Uther's future child, Merlin helps Uther rape Igraine, the Duke of Cornwall's wife, while the Duke dies in battle. Igraine gives birth to Arthur, and Merlin takes the boy. Ambushed by the Duke's men, a dying Uther thrusts Excalibur into a stone, as Merlin declares that he who pulls the sword from the stone shall be king. So, Big D, you texted me with the film formula for Excalibur.
Oh, I forgot. Shit, I forgot to do it. Okay.
But before you share it, it was spot on. Specifically, the Game of Thrones part. The larger aspects of this film feel very Game of Thrones. Unlike other films that we've seen from the 80s, the viewer has to take some time to size up each character and uncover their intentions. There are some fantasy elements, but front and center is the personal passions of the characters. And the women, Big D, maybe not that much nudity, but the women are sexy. They got killer bods and big curly hair. I mean, huge curly hair. The wounds in battle, they're pretty gruesome. Other than Merlin, major characters can die. They're not afraid to kill people off. So in this 1981 fantasy film, they're getting into a lot of that grit and a lot of the elements that made Game of Thrones the hit that it was.
The two different equations I gave was I said the Green Knight plus Eyes Wide Shut times Game of Thrones season 1's horniness equals Excalibur. It's a mix of sex, sorcery, and steel, where everybody's sweaty, glowing, and possibly related. That is this film. But unlike Game of Thrones, Gene, this starts off, and we've done a few medieval films before. Nothing really this serious, I think, but here we have the story of the sword and the stone, and everyone is so earnest. Everyone keeps their word, other than maybe Eddard Stark, who's willing to lose his head for the principle of doing the right thing. When Arthur pulls the sword, there are so many people there who could be slimy, who could be dirty, who could little finger the situation, who all you got to do is say, hey, yep, I did. I'm the squire. The son pulled it. Or maybe Patrick Stewart's character could defy the crowd. Instead, he stands on principle. He's out there. He's going to go it alone. And it's a welcome change. Knights that value their honor. It's not just words. And we see it through actions. And I did not remember that about this film.
Do you want to point out for the Game of Thrones fans out there that there are several very loyal and ethical characters in Game of Thrones? Sir Davos, the Onion Knight, Brienne of Tarth, Podrick and his giant hog. They're all good people, but most of the people were shitbags.
But here, you didn't need to be convinced. All of those Game of Thrones characters needed to be swayed or have a reason to follow a cause. Here, it's just like, hey, Arthur pulled a stone. Oh, he pulled it out of the stone? Oh, the sword? Okay, it's magic. Let's follow him. Let's just do it. Everybody just does it for no reason. I'm like, oh, it's great. They're standing on principle.
I mean, counterpoint, we do have one massive shitbag early in the movie with Uther, right? Uther becomes the king with Merlin's help, and he goes into the Duke of Cornwall's castle, and he fools Igraine by taking on the visage of the Duke of Cornwall. And I'm thinking, did he have to go through all that trouble? Did he have to mask himself as his enemy to take advantage of his enemy's wife? Because Uther, he doesn't give a fuck. And he just became king. He got Excalibur out of the lake. He is king. The Duke of Cornwall invites him over, and he's just like, hey guys, my wife is going to dance for you and get all you guys who just fought in battles really fucking horny. Uther is at the feast, and he's just shouting out loud, I must have her. So he has Merlin create a mist, and he rides the mist on horseback to her room, and he gets there, and he just yanks out her boob, bam, right in front of her daughter. Her daughter's like, I feel like dad is dead. And she's like, I don't care. This guy's here. I'm not saying that Igraine wanted to be tricked into sleeping with her husband's killer. That is not my case here. But I am pretty sure that this was not a happy wife.
No.
Like, she gets dragged out at parties to sexy dance for all the men. I think she could have been seduced if Uther had just shown up and been like, hey, I'm king now. Your husband's riding off to his death. What do you say?
Yeah, I think it's a good rule of thumb. If I went to your like Halloween party, Gene, right? And you were like, Sarah, yeah, come on, get out here, girl, twerk. Yeah, do the bottle dance, get down there. And had the guys circle around her, I would question if there was an issue in your relationship. She's all about it. He's all about it. I'm thinking, shit, this is like, let's hang some loofahs on the room doors. It's going to be a party. They're swingers. They're into it. But these guys are dumb. Maybe it's just their party because they're drunk. I wouldn't do that. They're cutting each other's wrists and doing like blood oaths. This is medieval times. A small like paper cut on your hand could lead to an infection and you could be dead. But I don't know if I'm going to be using Merlin's magic like this. I would treat it like it was something to be rationed out, something to be spent wisely. You have this magician who will do whatever you want, and you're going to waste it on getting laid? You're going to use a magical roofie? It's stupid.
This is the thing I don't get about rock stars, about kings and all this shit. Is like, okay, I get that sometimes you had to marry to unite kingdoms or whatever. And I get for like a rock star that maybe they have to marry for their image or to legitimize or whatever. But like, you can get all sorts of side tail. Like, that's allowed. That's in the fucking contract. Like, it's expected of a king to go out there and bang a bunch of people. You got the whole kingdom, buddy. But they'll get obsessed about, you got Helen of Troy. Like, there's always like some lady that they get, Cleopatra, that they get like obsessed with. I just don't get it. Like, I'm no stranger to love, Big D. But come on.
No, there wasn't a need for it. Yes, she was hot, but there was a whole like throne room of hot women there, and she seemed perfectly willing. I mean, every time Arthur turns a corner, he stubs his toe. Merlin, I need you more than ever. I've stubbed my toe. Heal my toe. It's stupid. But they do so many smart things in this for like an 81. In 81, everything was practical. You did not have CGI. You did not have any of the modern filmmaking that we would need to display magic or dragons or mystical powers. And here they do it simple. It's the old rule. You keep it simple. What you can't film, don't show it. So these battles and the combat, a lot of times it's low light. You see it in silhouette. They keep the action barely visible when they're fighting. The choreography is chest up. There's no wide shots to see these guys stumbling around in these suits of armor. And the magic, whenever there's a magical moment, how are they going to show the audience? They do that little like twinkle effect, the lens flare, and then they just put a damn like green light bulb on the set. Mm-hmm. So everything that is magical is bathed in this light. When Uther transforms, you might try to do some kind of like a practical mask or something ridiculous. Instead, here it's a simple edit. He closes his visor as the king. He raises it up as Cornwall. It's a simple thing you can do. And these little elements of the battle, of these magical moments, and it's done so simply, it makes it believable. And it doesn't stand out that this is something other than a story of characters, a rise for power, and a fight over a mystical sword.
I totally agree. But there's one old school thing that they did at the beginning of the movie that I wish they would have continued doing throughout the movie. Title cards. Okay, beginning of the film, they set us up. There's Merlin. We know the world we're entering into. There's a few spots in the movie where time passes or like something changes in the land. And a little bit of gentle hand-holding would have helped. Normally, it's common sense. Okay, if we're in a normal world, not a fantasy world, you see two people fuck, and then at the next scene, they got a baby. You're like, okay, cool. The baby was from them fucking. It's been 9 months that have passed. But once you introduce fantasy elements, like we know people can turn into other people. You could pull out the dragon mist. All these things can happen. It's harder to infer the passage of time or events. So like if the crops are all failing and the village is thrown into despair, I don't know if it's because 30 years have passed and like there's poor management or the land is sick. Likewise, this baby pops out, Arthur, and I don't know if Arthur was just magically born the next day, or if months had passed. The movie had already established title cards. Just keep going with it.
Gene, you strike me with words harder than steel. I do believe that they did tell us that time had passed. Merlin says that this spell was so strong that it took me 9 moons to recover. So I said, oh shit, okay, I got it. It's been 9 months. But like you said, a simple card would have been helpful. And maybe for viewers like yourself, Gene, that would have been a good thing for them to add.
Your old English is better than mine because I didn't realize that 9 moons. Remember, when you say it now, it makes sense. 9 moons is 9 months. I thought he just slept for 9 days. I was like, big fucking deal. You were so tired you slept for 9 days. Yeah, you brought the dragon, bro. Like, what'd you think was going to happen? But getting back to the smart filmmaking techniques you talked about, Big D, the other thing that impressed the shit out of me was the armor in this movie. They had blacksmith Terry English, who's a master blacksmith, and he created these incredible suits of armor. Tying back to that Lord of the Rings production that they were trying to do, it's really that level of armor. It all looks very cool, but it also like makes sense. It feels real. This armor does not look like Hollywood armor. You don't want the characters to take it off. Everyone looks so awesome. And that's good because they really don't take their armor off. Going hunting, full armor. Taking a nap against a tree, full armor. Hanging around the castle, just having dinner, full armor. It seems like the people of Camelot have 2 modes, full armor or bare ass naked. There is no in between. Even Merlin the magician, they gave him like a metal fucking helmet that he just wears around. I don't know why.
But I think it's so we can identify them, because they're all kind of unique armors. If you saw them walking around and maybe some of like their normal garb, you'd be like, which knight is that? I can't really tell. But Gene, you are so true. They stumble around. They're doing normal tasks. And I didn't need to see like Game of Thrones. I didn't need to see like Game of Thrones with the squires trying to squeeze fat Robert Baratheon into his suit of armor, and to get an armor stretching plate or plate stretcher or whatever it is. I didn't need to see that. Normally, I would want to see it. But no, I'd rather see the suit of armor nicely placed against a tree as they're already thrusting. I didn't need to see the awkward fumbling of taking off. That's not romantic. That's not foreplay. It would take 30 minutes to get Lancelot out of that suit.
Can we point out that Uther, he did it with a grain with his armor on. He never took that shit off. He must have had just like a cod piece that flipped up. Their armor didn't have a cod piece. Their dicks were exposed. I mean, not out, but they were.
Are you sure about that? Did you actually like?
This is a horny movie. Yeah, I remember paying attention to that because I was like, oh, they've got a lot of armor on, but they didn't have like the backside of the legs, which is accurate. The groin was exposed.
It's because this was casual armor. Battle armor would come with the cod and the
take a leak.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, this is the sexy armor.
Merlin entrusts a knight named Ector to raise Arthur, who becomes squire to Ector's son, Kay. As a young man, Arthur pulls Excalibur from the stone, proving he is Uther's rightful heir. Leodegrance pledges his allegiance to Arthur, but they are opposed by knights who dispute Arthur's kingship as a bastard. Defending Leodegrance's castle and his daughter Guinevere, Arthur defeats Uriens, whom he compels to knight him and swear fealty. Smitten with Guinevere, Arthur ignores Merlin's warning that she will one day fall in love with someone else.
So whenever I'm watching a movie like this length, when you know it's 2 hours and 20 minutes, we've got a lot of ground to cover. We got to go from here to there. In my head, I'm always keeping an internal clock. And it's part of the way I can tell when a movie is stalling, when I can feel a lag. They get through the first portion of Uther. We get to Arthur fairly quickly. And Arthur, early on, he pulls out the sword. He's immediately, they say he's the king. And everyone's fighting. Everyone's rebelling. And I'm questioning, how are they going to efficiently unite this world in battle? Game of Thrones, it would be a half season. In another film that wasn't as such a widespread spectacle, you might have, this was like part 1 of a trilogy. But instead, they do it in a really simple way that's believable and, again, grounded and easy to do. At first, Arthur does this action hero thing. He's in his little squire outfit. And he goes all Rambo. He goes all Dean Parker from Toy Soldiers. He's scaling the building. He's scaling the wall. He's fighting off well-armored, well-equipped soldiers and knights. He's yanking down ladders at Patrick Stewart's castle. He's doing medieval parkour. He's swinging the sword like a pro. But then the moment really flips, because you could only fight these guys off for so long. You could only kill so many of them. One of the knights, he's got him down. He shows mercy. He seals the deal by saying, "You're right. I'm not a knight." He takes a knee, and it makes sense. All of a sudden, Arthur has within like a minute and a half scene, taken what would have been 40 minutes of storytelling to get us to the point where everyone believes Arthur. We're on to the next phase of the film. And it was smart, simple, and fast.
Yeah, he's got the guy at sword point. The guy says, I can't yield to you because you're not a knight. So he's like, okay, well, knight me. And he does. And speaking of knighthood, Big D, I learned a very interesting fact from Excalibur. There's a scene where Lancelot kisses the tip of Arthur's sword. This is an actual thing that some knights did to pledge fealty to a king. The king would pull out a sword and be like, kiss it, bro. Like, just go on. Just kiss it.
It's just the tip.
And in fact, there are historical accounts of French knights before they left for the Crusades. Kiss the tip, show your allegiance. They say it was a Christian thing, but I don't know, man. Like, I think there's some symbolism there.
Yeah, I don't know how comfortable I feel about that. Like, who was the first guy who did it? He's like, dude, kiss a tip. He's like, why? It's going to be a new thing. Listen, we're all going to do it. Just do it.
You don't just like tap it on my shoulders or something? That's the English. We're the French.
The whole shoulder to shoulder thing, that makes sense. I'm vulnerable. You could kill me. I'm swearing allegiance, but you don't need to put it in my mouth.
No.
You could, okay. But Gene, we've done other medieval films. We did Lady Hawk, Name of the Rose. We did Hawk the Slayer, Legend, and of course, Monty Python. Monty Python fucked this film up for me. I have vivid memories of this as a kid, thinking about how epic it was, how sexual it was, how this was what like adult knights would do. When they're riding around on horseback and the squires, all I heard was the damn coconuts clopping from Monty Python, and watching them gallop around the forest, or the absurd riddle, the Bridge of Death, or Arthur's Duel, or Lancelot's. Suddenly he's got the shades of the Black Knight insisting it's a flesh wound, or the castle siege with the French where they start shooting the livestock over the fence. Monty Python ruined this film for me in a way I didn't expect. You, who had more experience going into it, did you see it the same way? Did it ruin it for you?
Guilty. Yeah. 100%. Every time they went in the countryside, anytime anyone was giving a speech, their shitty beards, like all of it reminded me of Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Even the scene where the villagers like turn on Percival, it reminded me of like the peasant backlash in the Holy Grail, where they're talking about like economic systems and being the peasants. Right. And this would make total sense if Holy Grail was lampooning Excalibur the film. That's not how this worked out. Holy Grail came out 6 years before this movie. Mm-hmm. So their comedy was so expert that they understood, we're going to take all the tropes of these Arthurian legends, of these fantasy films, of this medieval era, and we're going to make a film that is so pervasive that you cannot watch any other film in that vein without thinking of our movie first.
Like, how do you future-proof a parody? It's brilliant. It's absolutely amazing that they grasped, like you said, the concept and the material so well that there's no way you could do a medieval film without embracing it.
Years later, the undefeated knight Lancelot almost bests Arthur, who calls upon the power of Excalibur to defeat Lancelot, breaking the sword. The Lady of the Lake restores the sword to a remorseful Arthur, and Lancelot swears allegiance to him. Unifying the land, Arthur and his knights create the Round Table and the castle Camelot. Secretly infatuated with Guinevere, Lancelot escorts her to her wedding to Arthur, declaring his loyalty to the king outweighs his love for her. Arthur's half-sister Morgana reveals to Merlin that she's a sorceress, and shortly after, Lancelot brings Percival, who hopes to become a knight, to Camelot. Influenced by Morgana, Gawain drunkenly accuses Guinevere of betraying the king, and a duel over her innocence is set. When no champion will fight for the queen, Percival steps forward, but Lancelot arrives and defeats Gawain, sparing his life.
So, dear young listener who may have never seen this film, you've heard a little about it, you've maybe heard this podcast, and you don't know whether it's worth watching. Start it off. Try it. The first 30 minutes, the first hour, this film is on rails. It does not waste time. It's not going to need an hour and a half to get you hooked. In under an hour, Excalibur covers enough story that would be a modern blockbuster. You got Uther's rise and fall. Arthur is conceived. He's taken by Merlin. Morgana enters the picture. Arthur grows up. He takes the throne. He unites the land. He then beats Lancelot. He breaks Excalibur, gets it fixed. Then, with Lancelot's help, he leads the knights to victory over the West. There's peace. And then Merlin tells everyone, hey, circle up, guys. Let's circle up. It's 56 minutes into the movie. And by today's standard, this would be the end of Excalibur Part 1. We would then get Part 2. And Merlin says, let's all remember this moment. This is enough for an entire first movie today. It's fantastic.
Unlike you, Big D, I don't have an internal clock on the film. So Sarah and I were watching this, and at the moment where all the knights raise their swords and Arthur thinks of the round table, we thought the movie was over. And I was like, pretty good. You know, like 2 wipes. I'm satisfied. This is a great movie. And what we get after that is the decline of Arthur's reign, which Merlin foretold. And that could make up a second movie. It makes perfect sense. There is a movement. There's a change in what's going on, right? Totally agree with you. The pacing on the first part, it is a complete film. It's highly entertaining. If there's one thing that Excalibur gets tragically wrong, though, it's Percival. So Percival is a pretty big character in this film, but his introduction is weird. There's this young outlaw who sneaks up on Lancelot while he's napping. And Lancelot's like, well, you want to be a squire or something? He's like, okay, well, follow me. He lets this outlaw from the woods enter Camelot with a knife and zero supervision. Go have fun. This kingdom was doomed. They have zero security measures. We get this goofy comic relief romp where he's going around and it's like the wonders of the new castle. It reminded me of when I go to the Renaissance Festival, which, by the way, Renaissance festivals are kicking off all across the country right now. I think Minnesota just had theirs. Shout out to Hot Sauce Steve, who sent us some photos from theirs. And when you go to the Renaissance Festival, you want to go to the joust at the end because there's going to be death and blood, and that's cool. You want to go get lots of beers, and you want to people watch mainly. Some of the shows are okay, but most of it is not. Most of the shows are not going to be great. Most of the booths and the merchants, not great. We see all of them in this scene. It's Percival. He's going around Camelot, and they're just like, look at this guy with his weird animal. Look at this over here. He's got bottles of something, you know? Nobody cares. It's wasted time. Percival does go on to play a huge role in the story, but it never quite feels earned. He just sort of showed up.
He's a little rascal. If I was Lancelot out, and again, there doesn't seem to be any support element. The knights just go off on their own. There's no squire, there's no food, there's no equipment. It's just them on horseback, just lounging around, sleeping in the tree alone. If I was just like, let's say Percival, I would just lull him to sleep with like a rabbit. I would get him to eat. He goes to sleep. I slit his throat. I melt down his armor or sell it. I'm good to go. He's running around behind him. Hey, I want to follow you. And Lancelot's like, hey, get on my horse. You don't let some strange, like a forest rascal just get on your horse.
Yeah, he's an outlaw with a knife. He has no sheath for that knife. He just carries it around in his hand.
No, and he runs for like 5 or 6 days. He's got good cardio, so maybe you take him back. You put him to work in the kitchen. It makes sense. But there should be some onboarding. At your job, Gene, you don't just throw somebody out onto the floor and give them a project to work on. You got to vet them. You got to make sure. You got to keep some kind of key card access control.
The kitchen. The fucking kitchen.
Yeah, that's a great way to get Arthur killed, get Merlin killed, get all the knights killed. Percival hits the jackpot, the medieval jackpot. He wants to be a squire. The man does much better than that. When Guinevere's honor is questioned, he looks around and he's a man of action. He sees an opportunity. He steps forward. He says, I'll volunteer. He immediately is knighted. And then there's no battle, no injury, no heroics required. Compared to Arthur, Arthur had to go out, pull the sword. He then had to go parkour, show his deserving abilities as a king to unite the realm and the Western Front. Here, Percival just stumbles into it. And Gene, like I said, he should have earned it. There should have been something that we knew this was a special character that wasn't introduced in a goofy, funny way with some zoinks moments that he just stumbles into the title that anybody else would have died for, especially with the role that he plays going forward. And the fact that nobody stands up for Guinevere. Guinevere is questioned out in the open in front of this giant feast. Liam Neeson, he's shit-faced. Morgana's been whispering in his ear. She's been poisoning him. He questions her. Not a single knight steps up to defend Guinevere's honor. Did you take this, Gene? There's two options it could be. When no one steps up, if somebody talks shit about Sarah and none of your friends stepped up, either one, everyone agrees with it and thinks maybe there's some truth to it, or they think you're crazy as shit and they don't want to go up against you. In this case, which one is it?
The whole thing hinges on Morgana talking to Gawain, being like, oh, this bitch, she's fucking around. He's like, oh, I guess I'm going to call her out. Which, by the way, like, you're a knight at the round table. You're set, bro. The kingdom's doing great. You're not going to fuck that up with the king by just openly calling out his lady. But in the source text, right? By the way, there are many Arthurian legends, but like in the one this is based off of, everyone knew there was something between Guinevere and Lancelot. The movie kind of muddies the water. In the source text, Lancelot is caught in Guinevere's chambers. And then he's trying to get out of there. Dudes are trying to stop him. He kills a bunch of people. So in that scenario, you can see where Arthur would be like, yeah, man, I think you probably cheated on me. I judged thee guilty. He was in your chambers and then murdered people to get out of there. That makes sense, which you could have done in this movie. But instead, they're like, yeah, Liam Neeson got drunk.
Right.
Peed his pants.
And besides the way that all the ladies of the court look at him and all the way the women look at him and the way he physically looks and the fact that his name is Lancelot and the way he wields his sword, you know this dude.
Yeah.
This dude, you could see the women wanting him because you know he was good in bed.
But also, hey, judgment of the king. If your chief advisor, who is a magician, is like, hey, she's going to fall in love with somebody else, you might go, okay, maybe she's not the one.
Yeah, and I like that Arthur later on has that realization where he goes, you fucking warned me, bro. You told me I should have listened to you. My magical magician, my best confidant. Dude, he even did like the wink. Hey, yo, bro, it's going to be Lancelot. Look at him. That's the dude. He's going to do it.
Well, retreating to the forest, Lancelot is followed by a deeply moved Guinevere, and they make love. Arthur finds them and thrusts Excalibur into the ground between the sleeping lovers. Merlin's magical link to the land impales him on the sword as Morgana traps him and steals his charm of making. Taking Guinevere's form, Morgana seduces Arthur and gives birth to a son, Mordred, infecting the land with famine and sickness. A weakened Arthur sends his knights to search for the Holy Grail, hoping to restore the land and himself. Mordred reaches adulthood, and his mother gifts him magical armor so he can conquer the land by force. Big D, Arthur has a lot of qualities you would want in a king. He is humble, he's loyal, he's brave, he's pragmatic, he learns from his mistakes, he's benevolent. He's a terrible negotiator. His wife is accused of loving Lancelot, so his solution is trial by combat. No, like, let's get some mediators in here, no de-escalation. When he needs Merlin to heal Lancelot after that, he goes straight to heal him whatever the cost. Bro. Maybe start out Merlin. How to get you a real nice horse. We got lots of like these little boggy islands. How about an island you can have? You know, Arthur, Merlin took you from your father on such a pledge. Maybe be a little more careful before you end up with one of your knights porking your queen.
Yeah, and again, I also want Merlin to be more upfront with him. Dude, you wanted me to save him? I told you first he was going to sleep with her. You didn't listen to me. Then he gets stabbed, and now you want me to shoot another magic bullet to save him. Magic isn't endless. You could see it takes a lot out of me. He's your idiot friend who gets 3 wishes and blows the first 2, and then the third one tries to say, I want more wishes. That's not the way this fucking thing goes. And every time, I wanted once that he would go to Merlin and be like, Merlin, I want you to heal him. And he says, no, you don't listen to me. I'm going to leave, and have him just vanish. And then Arthur has to stumble through it and figure it out. But he doesn't. He never learns. He keeps wasting the magic. And I don't blame Merlin for wanting to leave. You got Morgana there, who seems pretty proficient. You see her in the background with her little stew of spells, and she's lurking. Go to her. She's pretty good. And now I realize, Gene, this film was not erotic like I thought it was as a kid. There's no awakening here. There was one memory, though, that stuck very true as a little kid watching this. When Arthur, he's had a Gene Lyons moment. He's sick in the throne. He can't speak. He can't move. He looks quite old and frail. And he sends all of his knights out to go find the cure for strep. And he searches for the finest antibiotics that the realm has to offer. And Percival goes out there. It is a nightmare-fueled ride. 10 years, I think it was, 10 years in a day or 10 years in a month. He's riding through snow, frozen comrades stuck on their horse, crucified bodies tied to horses running around. Arthur's bastard son, this arrogant little shit, I remembered him in the golden armor. He is maybe like 14, 15 at that point. And he's like, ha, 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 ha. I remember wanting to kill that little bastard like I did today. But what gave me nightmares, Gene, is Percival. He eventually finds this tree with all the other dead knights strung up on it, like it's a Christmas tree with Christmas ornaments. And there's crows picking out the eyes. Even as an adult, the hair on the back of my neck stood up. As a kid, I hit this, and even though I knew there might be more boobies later on, I turned it off. For years, this was as far as I made it in the film because of the terror the scene induced.
I was just so lost watching this. Was Percival literally going to different places, or like was this an illusion for Morgana?
No, he went. It was 10 years.
He
Over
went.
10
so
years.
He was going to lots of different places.
Right.
Felt like a bad trip. Is she in his head? Like, what the hell is going on? So he was literally traveling to all these places for 10 years. And then he found this tree where literally the knights were strung up and dead, getting their eyes picked out. All that's real?
Well, so there is 2 parts of it, right? So when he encounters Morgana, in that 10 years, her son has aged up to where he's now riding. He's in armor. There was the quest going on. We do see the trees dead, the knights up in the tree dead. There is the vision where she is trying to seduce him, almost to steal his souls. And when then we see the souls of the other knights in that vision trying to get him to drink, I think it's a combination. As he's being asphyxiated, he's hanging from the tree, then it becomes this giant mess.
Which, by the way, guys, these knights, if you haven't seen the movie, they're skeletons, but they still have their facial hair.
I wasn't focused on that. I was focusing on there's like the wind and the music. It's all the elements of a horror film. And for a kid, I'd never seen anything like this. And over the years of dealing with the topics and the characters, I didn't remember how Arthur was conceived, the deception and the rape that starts out the film, and that there's a little child watching her mother be raped. And Morgana knows in her mind that her father has been killed. And over the years, I'm thinking that Morgana is the villain. They frame her as the ultimate villain in the film, that she betrays Merlin, she betrays Arthur, she tries to get Arthur killed, forcing her brother to impregnate her. She's not the primary villain. If you look at it from her side, she's justified. You could rewatch this film to where her actions take on a different meaning. If you did a film from her perspective, it's payback. It's a revenge film. Everything that she went through, the betrayal, the trauma, the injustice she endured, to then pick herself up, to rise up, to be in a position where she could come back and get revenge. She's not a one-dimensional villain like I remembered. She wasn't just a hot Helen Mirren that everybody thinks. She was a fully created character that is on a quest for revenge, and she comes so close. I almost want to pull for her in her fight after what happened to her. And the story of her, I think you could be, if they did a retelling, you can't do Excalibur, but almost do an origin story of Morgana. It's like a Conan. What did she go through to get to that point? And maybe have a twist where she does actually get revenge. But I thought it was pretty cool to see from Morgana's POV.
I was 100% Team Morgana in all of this. The whole story. Her father was killed. Her mother was raped. The son that was born of that rape, Arthur, gets to be king. And then the dude that facilitated the whole thing, Merlin, that's the king's most trusted advisor. This woman has every right to revenge. I was pulling for her. She didn't do anything wrong. I felt like she did dirty too. Like, her son strangling her. That's how she dies, as an old hag. Terrible. Spoiler alert.
Well, I think it was mistaken identity. I don't think he thought it was her.
Oh, no, he did. He was disgusted by her, and he was like, you're gross. Get out of here. He just thought some old lady broke into her tent. Like, die.
Yeah, I thought it was just maybe there was some like old witch from the town who had come in and tried to take her out, because Morgana had sworn that she would not use the fog. So maybe there was a battle of sorceresses, or Merlins had somehow come out. I would have at least questioned or said, "You're my son." She says nothing like that.
Mordred doesn't go like, "Hey, where's my mom?" I think he's pretty sure it's her.
I think he was checking his clock. He said, "Shit, we're at 2 hours. Well, let's just speed it up here. Okay, fog's coming. Let's go, guys. Let's get the battle rolling."
Percival recovers the Grail, revitalizing Arthur and the land. Arthur finds Guinevere at a convent, and they reconcile before she gives him back Excalibur. Apparently, she was able to pull it out of the stone. At Stonehenge, Arthur's love liberates Merlin, who tricks Morgana into speaking the charm of making, exhausting her powers and enveloping the battlefield in mist. Mordred discovers his mother's aged true self and murders her in disgust. Jean says. As Arthur and his men battle Mordred's forces, Lancelot comes to Arthur's aid, dying a true knight. Mordred mortally wounds Arthur, but Arthur stabs Mordred through the heart with Excalibur, killing him. Arthur commands Percival to throw Excalibur into the water, knowing the sword will rise again for a worthy king.
So one of the most memorable parts of this film that people talk about it, and Chris, Mike, and Ollie mentioned the score. Most of this music was not created specifically for the film. They went with pre-existing classical works that blended this sense of like mystic and a timeless feel. And it's memorable. You hear, whether it's O Fortuna or the funeral march or the prelude, it's ingrained into the film, and it blends into one like it was meant to be together. And out of all the memorable visual shots in this film, Excalibur, there's a lot of them that are beautiful, that if you take them as stills, the cinematography, the composition of the shots, the visuals are amazing. Arthur, he's finally gotten his strength back. He calls whatever's left of his army together, and they ride. And we get the orchestra starts to swell as they ride through this orchard of cherry blossoms. And the camera is gliding next to him. The banners are flying in like slow motion. The petals are falling from the trees in slow motion. And the theme kicks in, and it's the dun, 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 dun. It is beautiful. It's one of those scenes that I didn't remember. And it's one of those that make the film something special. And I think it's why I love movies. When a scene like this can just elicit excitement, dread, a feeling of revenge, the emotion that came out of this, it was something that I think set this film apart for me.
Meanwhile, I was thinking how much the camera angles and the movement combined with that film grain from 1981, it made the whole thing look like an episode of The Monkees.
No.
Like if you change the music out, this is a Monkees music video.
No, you're not serious.
Sorry.
No, Gene, your defiance mocks me. I'm a fighting man. I'm sworn to my quest, Gene. Why do you say these things? You're what's best in men. Don't say this is a Monkees video.
Well, Big D, the resolution of this film, I'm sure Arthur thinks he's very noble in killing his own son and returning Excalibur to the Lady of the Lake. But I want to talk practically about the king's dying wishes. We've seen in this film that England was torn apart by warring kingdoms until Arthur and his knights were able to unify the land. And then they had peace and prosperity for a long time. And that peace and prosperity, it lasted until Arthur decided to stab the earth. Now that he's vanquished Mordred, so Mordred's out, wouldn't the priority be to designate an heir? All the knights but Percival, they're dead. Morgana, dead. Guinevere, she's a nun now. So who's going to run the kingdom? He's created a complete power vacuum. And you and I both know what happens in a power vacuum.
But Gene, I'm confused. There's this whole quest for the Grail. And there is the riddle of the Grail. What have you learned? What we've learned throughout the film is that the king and the land are one. Why are you going to God? Isn't God above all of them? Shouldn't there have been some reckoning with Arthur and a righteous quest where maybe the king and the land should be intertwined with God? There was a whole holy element that I felt was kind of left out here, where it didn't make sense. Maybe in the end, Gene, the whole Grail process and the sword process was failed. You took Uther. We don't know what he did to deserve it. Maybe Arthur, again, failed, and he broke the sword multiple times. Maybe the Lady of the Lake was like, listen, let's take a time. We're not going to be picking anybody magically. Let's do some dark times. Let's have a democracy rise. We could have that come up. Maybe that was the option for the Lady of the Lake. And I was glad. And at the end, the clock was ticking. They didn't drag out this long father-son duel. There was no Arthur trying to track down his bastard son. It was, hey, come here, father. Let's embrace. Literally a second later, a slow spear through Arthur. Arthur wastes no time. He immediately runs Excalibur right through his heart. It's over surprisingly quick. It's clean. It's done. Percival, bless his soul, the little scamp of the forest, he steps up again and rides for days to go throw Excalibur back in the lake. He doesn't even do it the first time. He gets there and goes, I can't do this. He rides back multiple days. Arthur is still there like, I'm slowly dying. Did you do it? And he's like, I couldn't do it. And he's like, go do it. He rides back days, throws it. Arthur's then there on his little barge going off into the afterlife. It was clean. It was fast. Thankfully, there was no fourth act of the father-son duel of fates. I thought it tied up nicely. The land would suffer. The people would suffer. And maybe that was God's will in the end.
Well, now's the time in the podcast where we give our Shat score for Excalibur. The Shat score is our way of telling you how many wipes this movie takes to get off your respective butts. 0 wipes is a perfect movie. It's a dream to some, a nightmare to others. 5 wipes is an absolute disaster of a film. It's the sins of the father bringing ruin to the kingdom. I'll go first, Big D. This movie stumbles ass backward through the finish line, and some parts of it feel very 70s despite being in the 80s, but you cannot deny it is mesmerizing. It's highly entertaining. Everyone's performance in this movie is dialed up to 11. It's something we didn't really talk about. They are just giving it everything, and it really does, as a film, illustrate human frailty and imperfect characters. Throw in some great boobs, some gnarly action, and a few necromancers. You're in for a good time with this movie. I'd say it's 2.5 wipes.
I think it's far better. And maybe I'm having rose-tinted glasses for my nostalgia of this film and my memories of it. But I think it succeeds in a lot of ways that other films don't. It could have been campy. It could have been cheesy. The magic could have been laughable. They hit the bullseye with all of the cast. You've got great actors who have long careers. Check. Special effects. Check. The pacing of the plot up until the end that meanders a little bit. It's exciting. It's action-packed. In a time of 80s, like the fantasy booms, the Conans, the Beastmasters, the Clash of the Titans, this would stand alone on the Mount Rushmore if it wasn't for the sexual content. I think the sexual content and then the violence limited mainstream acceptance and the box office. No family was taking their kids to see this.
I mean, yours was.
Yeah, this was Robert at night being like, hey guys, kids, let's sit down. We're going to watch this. Don't tell your mother I showed you this. I'll bet you mom had no idea the kids watched this. because it was that moment that stuck with them to this many years later Robert is now, reaping the rewards, the land of healed. He's healed. I think this film is far better. I think Helen Mirren, Liam Neeson, Gabriel Byrne, Patrick Stewart. This is the music, Gene. I think this is a one wipe film for me.
All right, with 1 wipe from Big D and 2.5 wipes from me, that gives us an average wipe score of 1.75 wipes for Excalibur.
So, Gene, with a score of 1.75 wipes, it's not too shabby. That now ties this in the 138 spot with Indiana Jones, The Temple of Doom, Halloween 4.
Wow.
Drop Dead Gorgeous, Friday, and I'm Gonna Get You, Sucker.
It's pretty damn good. I like all those movies. I mean, Temple of Doom is not my favorite Indiana Jones movie. I had some issues with the slavery, but it's fine company.
They're all films that I think are better than you would expect. And would you watch this again is the question, Gene.
Oh, 100%.
That's the mark of a success.
Now, I do think that the length of it makes it a pretty bad party movie. But if you had it on during a party, I could see it being a lot of fun. On that note, Big D, what do we have coming up next week?
Gene, next week, a failed college coach gets a chance at redemption when he's hired to direct the basketball program at a high school in a tiny Indiana town. After a teacher persuades star player Johnny to quit and focus on his long-neglected studies, the coach struggles to develop a winning team in the face of community criticism for his temper and his unconventional choices of assistant coach Shooter, a notorious alcoholic. This was commissioned by Stephen J., who won the Shat Fantasy Football, the league last year. So this was his choice. It was a great sports film. And even though it's different than the legendary Excalibur, I think we're going to have some good topics for discussion.
Thank you, Stephen J., for the upcoming commission. And thank you to Hot Sauce Steve for running the Shat Fantasy Football League and everyone who's participating in it. Good luck on the next season. Chris, Mike, Ollie, thank you so much for commissioning this film for your dad. And Robert, happy 60th. That concludes this week's episode of Shat the Movies. Be sure to follow us on social media and share with a friend. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram at Shat the Movies. You can email us, host@shatpod.com. If you'd like to leave us a voicemail, go to shatpod.com and use the SpeakPipe feature. You can support the podcast by shopping our Amazon affiliate link, buying our merch, or by commissioning your own movie. Find all our information by visiting our website, shatpod.com. Also, check out our sister podcast, Shat on TV. Review TV series such as Lovecraft Country, Westworld, True Detective, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, and Watchmen. Find all our information on our website, shatpod.com/TV. We are everywhere fine podcasts can be found, including Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, and YouTube. Be sure to subscribe. And if you stop by Apple Podcasts, please leave a 5-star review. It helps the podcast grow. On behalf of my co-host, Big D, I'm Gene Lyons. Join us next time for the following movie.
We're going to be a tough team to beat. Now you come along for the ride.
A tough coach. He turned losers into fighters. Enemies into friends.
I play, coach stays. He goes, I go.
Challenges into triumphs.
If you put your effort and concentration into playing to your potential, in my book, we're going to be winners.
Hoosiers, it'll go straight to your heart. Rated PG.
Starts tomorrow at selected theaters near you.
I don't know how Excalibur made us like bro podcast. Just like, bro, come on. Shit, son.